This podcast will be talking about the design of cars and smartphones mostly. So we'll be discussing the general points about how the design has evolved, or how the different aspects has evolved in a design standpoint, or we'll be talking about all those related to this points. But we'll be talking mostly about design and in cars and smartphones.
Okay.
So this podcast is divided into two segments. The first segment will be focusing only on cars and the related technologies, and in the second segment, we'll be focusing on smartphones and the related things related to the smartphone. So today, guys, we have with us two guests. Our first guest is Sean, and our second guest is Chris, and we'll be discussing about the cars and smartphones together. Yeah. So moving on to the first segment. Okay. In the first segment, we'll be discussing about cars and how the design has evolved. Not in the internal components or in the other perspective, just from a user standpoint. How initially we had concept vehicles which were showcased, with much pomp and glory in the auto shows, auto expos, and all that, and how it was then refined, and eventually released into production. We had vehicles which were, some vehicles which were shown in expos, 2 or 3 years. Then it came into production, but now what we see, with the recent developments, like the XCV or the BE60 or the Tata Curve, is that these all look like what those concept vehicles which we had, 3 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Those futuristic looks, and those front all curved. We don't have that grills and all those.
People, it takes a little bit of time for them to even digest that it
Oh,
is
that,
readily
that's true.
available on road. Like, and yeah, even the interior of the car is also very futuristic. It has um that concept of a cockpit of an aircraft, and even the ride modes, the ride selector,
Yeah.
everything looks the gears. It
The
all looks.
quality also, look, it feels somewhat premium.
Yes.
It starts at around 18 lakhs or something, right?
Yes, it's
Hmm.
also very affordable,
Uh-huh.
and by the looks of it, it can even directly compete with the supercars. Like,
Ah,
even like just from the design
Yeah, from the
perspective.
rear, it looks somewhat like the, Lamborghini.
Yeah, the Urus.
yeah,
Yeah, you.
that's true. That's true.
And
Because the first time I saw those pics, right, it kind of reminded me of the Cybertruck.
yeah,
Yeah.
It somewhat has the similarities, and at the same time, it looks very futuristic here. The Cybertruck, it's just plain, but this one, it looks like they did a better job at that.
yes,
And also, like you mentioned, the features, like I don't know the exact features that the car packs, but from what I saw, it can compete with the premium, like luxury vehicles.
Yeah, the
Yeah, that's
features.
what I feel. Because 18 lakhs is it's not a small amount, obviously,
Yeah.
but for a vehicle of that caliber, it feels like it's cheap.
But I
definitely.
think it all comes down to, our use case
Mhm.
we have. Also, in some cars, we have those gimmicky features,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
which are not useful, but we have those. One of which I have seen in this XUV or this B60 is that we have the colored roof. You know,
Yes.
Mm.
is it? I don't find any use for it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Practically.
I mean, there's no practical use to it,
yeah.
obviously. So,
Yeah,
But just
even.
for the looks
oh,
purpose.
yeah.
But do we need to spend that much, or do we need that additional electronics, or those, because the more and more aesthetic, or simply we add to those things, we get, more and more problems, because eventually there is a failure for each and every component,
Mhm.
that is, or the LED bulbs or whatever is in that. There's a failure time. So here is where we will come to those classic cars.
Mhm.
In this classic cars, we had just simple old steering wheel, gear knobs, selectors, whatever it was, and it used to be so easy.
Yes.
Now
Yeah, that's
there is, there is
Things
no,
back then were all more kind of mechanical in nature.
yeah,
yeah, that's what.
The real touch, we
Yeah.
could feel things. Now it's
yeah.
all in one center
So
console or a
that's,
bunch of displays.
No,
I
what
mean,
this occurs is we have more problems. Yeah, right.
Mm.
You can go. Yeah.
yeah, like if you're talking about classic cars, like personally, I prefer classic cars, right? Like, uh, there's something to actually, you know, pushing down the clutch and changing the gears, right?
Yeah.
Like we don't really get that in EVs.
Yeah, yeah,
That it feels very different. It's not hating on EVs, but
yeah,
just the comparison for the comparison purpose. Yeah,
yeah. It's too real,
yeah.
and we feel that the components and everything. Like, I have a Tata Tiago, right?
Hmm.
An IC vehicle, but the problem which I saw in that is we have a display,
Oh.
but in the display, what happens is that they have integrated the air, the cooling and everything
Mm-hmm.
in that. So what
Okay.
happens is, uh, if you want to see what temperature you are currently in your vehicle interior, what cooling is in or what heating is it, you have to look in the display.
Mm.
It's all shown in the display. But what happened was, we went somewhere, we parked the vehicle in hot climate, then this display was not starting.
Oh, yeah,
So
because
now,
of the high temperature.
yeah, now what do we do?
Mm.
This comes to a point where in XUV we this B60. I saw some reviews where they have mentioned that this this ACM control knob, it's somewhat irresponsive. Or if you're driving, if you're driving, what do you have to do? If you're driving and your whole display or the control is in the display, your whole attention is shifted to that. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's a mechanical component, which means you turn a gear
Yeah, you
knob,
just turn a
yeah,
knob.
you just drive and you just turn it. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in the correct
Yeah, you
position.
don't
You
even
can
have
go.
to look at it. Like
You don't even have to look in.
we'll get
Correct.
used to it and we know where it is, so we don't have to take the eyes off the road. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
What this occurs is when you touch a few points, if your eyes off on the road
Mm-hmm.
and you touch it, it might go down or go up because the
Mm-hmm.
screen time and the sync is not always correct. So this is one thing which I've seen in that XUV, which one review like, and I also have felt with it because of this incident which I had.
Uh-huh.
This is one point where I see that the classic cars are or the older cars are much affordable or much better option in that aspect because we see a lot of more and more issues with this technical or electronical components which we have. They are more prone to failures than us,
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
and they have to be repaired. And some of it can only be done by the service centers or such.
Yeah, but I
I,
think
yeah.
like companies in general are actually moving in that direction where they are trying to integrate all the functionalities or at least
Mm.
most of the functionalities of a car into one central console. And also about the air conditioning, the climate control thing. I think nowadays most of the cars also come with that voice assistance features. So you can also control them with voice assistance, although it is not readily available in all the models though. But it is also, I think, in the journey of innovations and developments, I think there will be some sacrifices here and there. But I also agree to the easiness of just turning the knob or
Yeah,
switching
because
on and off the AC.
Yeah,
you
That's it.
know about the voice assistants, like it could be tricky sometimes, right?
yeah,
Like
correct.
because
Hmm.
sometimes even when we are not talking to the assistant,
Yeah,
it could respond to
Yeah.
us.
or we might
It
say something
happens.
and it
Yeah.
might,
I mean, I have my Google Assistant just randomly wake up during
Hmm.
random conversations.
Yes.
So personally, I don't feel like it's very reliable at the moment.
Yeah.
yeah,
So I mean, over the years, maybe it'll be way
Yeah.
better. Like,
yeah, correct.
Will be.
and even companies could do something like, I mean, none of us needs like the entire thing in a single console, right?
Yeah,
Like,
correct.
And that is what Tesla actually does,
uh-huh.
like in all of their cars. Like for in a Tesla,
Yeah, they have this huge,
huge
yeah, yeah,
screen,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
and even for shifting the gears, you use the
Uh,
screen.
But
Like,
recently I saw in news like many manufacturers are trying to, shift only this air conditioning or this very important knobs, into
mm,
manual,
mm,
because they also felt that in multiple trials they have seen that many of the drivers have to take their eyes off the road,
Mm.
or their
mm,
attention is diverted.
yeah,
Mm.
So because of this, they are also trying to see. So this is where I think classic car comes in handy, and I
mm,
think somewhere there's a demand for it now with all these vehicles, and
definitely.
yeah,
And regarding the demand for classic cars, I think it is now in a all-time high.
Mhm.
yeah,
And like, cars like the HM Ambassador, or even going into the like luxury segment, like
mm,
the BMWs,
yeah,
the E35s, and all those cars now, for one, at least for the past couple of years, I think only collectors were behind those cars, but
Mhm.
now even people value the older generation of cars more
Yeah,
ever than
correct,
before.
that's
yeah,
true. But the classic cars, if we need to get it right now, it's expensive, right? Like,
Yes,
I
it's
mean, it's
actually,
like really high, the prices
yes.
are.
And also the maintenance costs, the running
Yeah,
costs
yeah,
would
yeah,
be
that's true.
also higher.
Like, personally, I would always prefer having a classic car because I mean, I like the designs of the B6A and the XEV.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks cool, all right. But I would prefer having a car that's like a vintage looking car, you know.
Hmm.
That's what I would prefer. Or maybe not even vintage, like the classic designs. That's what I prefer. Because right now I don't see any cars, like the new cars, they don't have those kind of designs, right?
yeah,
No,
yeah,
no, no.
It's all modern and
Yeah.
it's all about the aerodynamics and stuff like
Yeah, the
that, right?
yeah,
curves.
Yeah, the curves and
It's either too pointy or
yeah,
it's
it's
full of
smooth.
curves.
full
Yeah.
of curves, yeah, smooth,
Speaking about curves, you mentioned the Tata curve, right?
yeah,
Comparing that to the basic C, the Tata curve, it looks a bit outdated at the moment. Like,
yeah, yeah,
Definitely.
yeah,
definitely
it's
that,
Although it being released just a couple of months
yeah,
back,
yeah, like
it already looks outdated.
yeah,
it
Like
looks too outdated comparing it
it
to that.
looks like a car which came out like I think 5 years ago.
But
yeah.
also that's where I see another point. Like we have this B60 and
Hmm.
we have this 60 is another issue, and
Hmm.
we have this that VE vehicle, and we also have this Tata Curve.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But they have shown this V as a luxury vehicle,
Hmm.
Hmm.
luxury or something luxury which you get.
Hmm.
But comparing it in our rural loads, or India is not that developed. We have developed in a
Yeah.
lot of aspects, but the roads or the places, there's a lot of this looks, too much different, or I feel somewhat contrasting comparing it to the different vehicles. You will be the odd one out of the road
Yeah, I get what you
always.
Like,
mean because
yeah.
it would be like among all those vehicles, uh, if a Lambo passes by,
Yes.
Yeah,
it would be the same
Hmm.
feeling, I guess. Yeah,
but slightly different. I
yeah,
think.
I,
slightly
I,
different.
I
It's
I
not up
think
there, but
Yeah,
it's not
yes.
too low.
I think
But it's different. Yeah.
Lambo, it looks more like a normal vehicle,
Hmm.
but
Uh-huh.
this B, it looks more futuristic even from the
It is a
front design.
vehicle, I think, which got released way out,
Way ahead of
way
time.
ahead.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, way ahead of time.
Time.
Yeah, correct. That I think is a correct
At least for
definition.
us.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
Yeah.
like
and while talking about
actually,
this, we also have this EVs.
Mm-hmm.
They have what the best thing is that we have immense power,
yes,
power
torque.
delivery, the torque,
Definitely.
everything. Any takes on that? How you would see that? I only feel mostly like overtaking is good stuff in EVs. Other than that, I don't see.
Not only overtaking, I would say. I think most of the brands, like I think even BYD,
Mm,
Tesla, like they produce very powerful electric vehicles,
Mm-hmm.
and you know they can just outperform most of the supercars or hypercars that we can.
Mm-hmm.
Like not in the very super fast long runs, but in the short like 0 to 60 miles or
For the acceleration
yeah,
and the
for the
torque. Yeah.
acceleration and the torque purposes. Like they can easily outperform all the Porsches and BMWs and whatnot. Like so, performance standpoint, I think EVs are now beating almost every IC production cars ever. And
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, things
it's
are looking very great for them in those.
but like we had this Pininfarina. Pininfarina is a company, which has design, and they used to do only design works for luxury brands like Lamborghini or whatever it is there. These brands used to come, and I think they mainly did for Ferrari or something. And they used to come for designs, and they used to, prepare really good designs for them. And recently, a while back, Mahindra acquired this Pininfarina,
Hmm.
and what they did was they kept it as it is, but Pininfarina introduced EV vehicle. It was called, I think, Batista,
Hmm.
and it had huge horsepower. Huge horsepower. But they only sold a handful, and it was at a very high price. But I don't feel like we need that much power, or a person needs that much. I think it had around above 1,000 horsepower.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, definitely a common man doesn't need
yeah,
that much of
definitely not. I
horses.
mean, driving the cities,
Yeah,
it's
it's meaningless,
yeah.
pointless. But yeah, some people, they would love to drive these cars in a circuit, in a racetrack.
Yeah, that might
They
be.
they would love to, there are such people,
Yeah, press
and
that pedal. Boom.
yeah, and money might not be an issue for them.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think those kind of cars are for that set of a small group of people,
Yeah,
and for them it will make a lot of sense to buy one.
Yeah, I guess it's a selective few people.
Yes.
yeah,
It's not definitely not the common man, like you said.
But and then there is the Tesla, which offers, I think, four varieties of cars in four models, and they
Oh,
are
yeah.
also very powerful, and they can be used in a everyday basis. Like even though offering high torque, high power, they can also be a family car. They can also be a sports car.
Hmm.
They can be a city sedan. Like the Model 3, they recently released the Model 3 performance version, which
yeah.
also is actually beating like some of the Porsches and BMWs. And it's very ridiculous to watch.
But here we see that BYD was
Mm.
developed, tremendously.
Yeah,
Like,
hats off to BYD,
yeah,
man.
recently we saw this. I saw an interview or something like with Elon Musk.
Hmm.
In that, someone asked him. That time, what happened was that BYD was designing vehicles which looked too old. Like, it
Hmm.
wasn't in the classic. It wasn't in the modern era. It was something, stuck in between a dimension.
Hmm.
Because it was stuck in between a dimension. It felt
Yeah.
too odd. And Elon Musk had told this is too much of a uh, design. They won't be any competitor to our market.
Hmm.
They won't, they
Yeah, I
won't
was
capture the
being so
market.
confident.
Yeah.
Yeah, he said it in such a confident tone.
Uh-huh.
But what BYD had done there was they had been using only their internal designers or whoever was there in China. Then they put more money. They went ahead and they bought uh, big designers from Europe, and they hired them. This completely transformed their design and their entire vehicles from the BYD seal. I love those designs, and to their new technology innovation which they have, the new battery technology which they
Yes,
have, the blade
Blade.
technology.
Yeah.
Here we also come to a point where that we have this blade battery. I think the same is used in this B.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
And this B, they also have this blade technology, and I think they're offering lifetime warranty.
Yes.
And for the second owner, they're offering 10 years warranty if you are buying from someone else and you're using it. So you get that 10-year warranty. But how can you provide this warranty with such a long?
Hmm.
Only if you have that, such good battery, then only
Yes.
you can have the
That they
guarantee
are
to provide that.
confident with their
Yeah,
technology.
that's
Yeah,
And also, it all comes with great range.
huh.
Like those
yeah,
battery have a really good range.
Even this B60, I think it has around
Yeah,
500, above
500. Like
500, I think.
I think the ARA claims to be 550,
Mm.
but in real life we can really travel 500 kilometers in one go.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. And also it has 175 kilowatt charging, which can literally take from 20 to 80% in 20 minutes.
20 minutes.
Yeah.
No, but that's good. We need a chargers also, right?
Yeah,
Oh,
the
yeah.
infra is a whole different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without the infra, you buy the vehicle.
Yeah, the
You're not.
infra, but it's actually developing. Yeah, it is coming more and more into cities, and the charging stations are also increasing.
But
Yeah.
with the charging station, another point is that if you have a charging station and you're charging at 7 kilowatt,
Mm.
for example, the rate is low. But as the
Mm.
kilowatt of the charging goes up,
Yeah, the
your rate
rate
will
goes
also
up.
go up.
Mm.
So, do you see this EV as a economical standpoint? Is it really worth the time or worth the money? Or
Well, I think when we do the math, the numbers speak for themselves, and I think in the long run, say buy an EV, compare it with an alternative like an IC engine car, and
yeah,
I think over 5 years, like 5 to 10 years maybe, you will definitely get the profits
mm,
because there is no maintenance, frequent maintenance costs like service charges. And also main thing is the fuel cost, the running cost, which is significantly lower in an EV.
mm,
So yeah, when we all sum it up, I think in the long run it would be profitable to own a EV. But in the current market, I wouldn't suggest anyone to just own a single EV like for their family.
Mm.
It is more wise to have it as a secondary car,
mm.
or like the primary car should always be a hybrid and the secondary can be an EV.
Maybe you are telling like we have an IC for a long drive and
Yeah,
a small vehicle like MG Comet.
For
exactly.
the
Yeah,
city use.
yeah,
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
reliability.
But Comet was actually a really good vehicle, small
Definitely,
and
yes.
everything. But somehow the price didn't hit it right, hit at
Mm.
the right spots, and
How
it
how much
loved
was
it.
it?
I think it was around 7 lakh,
8 lakhs, I think.
seven, yeah, 7 to 10, somewhere in that range.
Hmm.
It'll eventually go, but they had it was this was also considered costly by people. When you
Mm.
come to that 8 lakh, you can easily get a really good IC vehicle.
IC
Mm,
vehicle.
yeah,
Then why
that's true.
would
That's
you, yeah, why would you shell that much out for an EV?
yeah. I mean, if you take a look at the Comet, it's very tiny.
Yeah,
It's
it's
it's not
small.
really a
Yeah,
family car.
Not really.
So, but I think it can seat how many, like,
I think it can sit 3 or 4.
yeah, you can
right,
sit.
yeah,
I think 4 people. Yeah,
for a small family maybe,
Mm.
but yeah, that's the main issue with the Comet, I guess, the price range.
yeah, but that's where MG hit the right spot with
Mm-hmm.
Windsor.
Oh,
But still, they introduced that subscription model. Hmm?
Oh, yeah.
Subscription
That's not the
is
right way
not
to
the,
go.
yeah, it's not the right
people
way to go.
hate subscriptions,
Yeah,
Yeah,
man, my Netflix, my Spotify, I can go on and
too
on.
too many subscriptions, right?
Yes.
and also it will automatically kick out that uh, cost effect which you are having with the TV,
Yeah.
and ultimately you will need to ride like a taxi driver to cover those costs.
Yeah, you'll have to travel very long
Mm.
distances in order to make like to reap the profits of by owning the vehicle itself.
Yeah.
So it is actually a liability for the
Yeah,
driver
reliability.
to
Yeah,
cover.
that's the right word to use. Yeah.
So when we come into the developments of like BYD, Tesla, and everything, we also see that many European car manufacturers were pushing for complete electrification of their cars.
Mm.
Mhm.
Uh, but now, recently, due to the decreased demand for EVs, they have been pushing back. But I think Volvo has achieved successfully
Yeah,
their goals for
complete.
complete electrification, and some of their vehicles are good, but still, I would never test an EV because of the software and everything.
Yes.
It's not right. And here we also see that Jaguar,
Mm.
it's pledged to be complete EV,
Fully
and
electric.
it's fully moving down that path. And in this transition, they have reimagined everything. They have completely transformed the entire,
Yeah, the rebrand.
yeah, the rebranding and everything. But why would someone do that? Why do you need to do that?
No
Yeah, I
idea.
know it was a do or die situation, but do you really need that much of rebranding to take off the legacy of a, a
The
hundred,
heritage
Yeah,
yeah, the
I
heritage of
get what you
hundred.
mean, but maybe they obviously had their own reasons
reasons.
to
Yeah,
do that, but uh, the people are not happy.
Yeah,
yeah, that
definitely.
The people are
definitely.
definitely not happy with their decision.
At least
And
in the present.
yeah,
Yeah,
apparently, maybe after a few years, we all
Expect.
might get used to it.
Yes.
yeah.
As of right now, it's going down the yeah.
Because I grew up abroad, and
Mhm.
there, my friend, her father had a Jaguar.
Jaguar.
When I saw that front, that logo, that
The
Jaguar,
Jaguar, yeah.
yeah, it felt different. Somewhere you wanted that,
Hmm.
but now you only have this 2J which hangs like a hook, and you have that shaded
Yeah,
out Jaguar.
feels like it's a different brand, because
Yeah,
uh, earlier, if someone sees, if they take a look at the car, maybe from the side profile, they might not understand it's a Jaguar,
yeah,
but if they see the logo, they'll be like, "Oh, it's
correct.
a
Yeah.
Jaguar," and they'll be very interested, But now, if people who are not aware of this change, if they see this car, they might ask us, which car is this? This
Hmm.
the identity.
Yes.
That's too much of a
Fully.
change. That's what.
But I believe that whatever they have done, they should have done to that car design. The design, the colors, everything is whatever you want, you create.
Hmm.
But don't ever tamper with the legacy of a brand or the
Yeah.
history of
Hmm.
a brand. When you tamper with that, you lose an entire flow of why that brand was created in the first place.
Hmm.
Yeah.
The
Fair
history
enough.
that is carrying for generations.
And also the existence of so many
Yeah,
years, and
Yeah.
also developing one of the most coolest looking cars.
Uh-huh.
All
correct.
Yeah.
gone.
Speaking of cool, I mean, I remember like when we were kids, right? Like
Hmm.
if we happen to see a Jaguar pass by, we'll
Hmm.
just stand there and look
Yeah,
at it.
Yes.
Like damn, that's a Jaguar
That's
passing.
the.
Yeah, that's what goes through our minds.
but why is everyone now, Jaguar, it had some pretty good sales, but
Mm-hmm.
they eventually moved, everyone moved to that Land Rover or SUV. People are
SUVs.
now rampaging on this SUVs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The
Why?
sedan market is actually declining.
Yeah, why
And
do people want SUV? They want, it's something like you are driving a cycle, you want a vehicle, then you are eventually driving a lorry. It's that.
I think.
bigger means better or something.
Yeah,
Yeah, one thing is actually that,
Uh-huh.
like, a bigger car means bigger prestige.
Yeah, that's
And
what. Yes.
also partly one among the reasons is actually the road conditions in India.
correct.
Especially in
India.
India,
Yeah.
that's actually a valid fact, to be honest.
So people would definitely not buy sedans, right?
Hmm.
It
No,
would
but
be too difficult for them to manage all those
yeah,
bumps, those messy roads.
even globally, SUV sales are the one which are increasing.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Sedans, they're selling pretty good, but SUVs are the ones which people need more.
Hmm.
I think nowadays people have moved from the traditional go from point A to point B to
Hmm.
maybe driving off road or something, trying like that,
Hmm.
going hitchhiking,
Yes.
maybe
Yeah.
some for that
No,
uses. We
it's
don't know.
for the. I mean, SUVs can be used for multiple purposes,
Yes.
right?
Yeah,
So maybe that's why they need the flexibility of the car.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because with sedans, we'll be limited to just
Yeah.
city
Just
drives and
roads.
long drives and just the roads,
Yeah.
right?
So I
So,
personally have an EV like
uh-huh.
Ather, and it's pretty good.
Hmm.
The build quality, the parts used, everything is amazing. Just
Hmm.
and because my company has a sustainable policy,
Hmm.
I haven't even paid a single rupee on charging till now.
Wow.
And yeah, and the service it cost me only I think 900 rupees because I chose for an express service.
Hmm.
And what they did was they tuned the front fork and they checked the belt tension. So that's all was the service and
Hmm.
nothing else. And only thing which I saw was like I had to pay a subscription cost for the vehicle, the software which was running on the vehicle, or
Hmm.
else they would have cut the supply to the SIM.
How
And
much do you have to pay for the
I
subscription?
had to pay around, I think, 1,000 rupees per year,
Uh-huh.
and for
Fair
3 years.
enough.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's reasonable. But when you see it in terms of multiple customers, it's somewhat a pretty good business.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
for
somewhere
them
I
definitely. Yeah.
yeah, and somewhere I feel that it I made a wrong choice
Oh.
because initially the software was too good,
Uh-huh.
but then they kept doing trials with those updates, and somewhere it keeps getting stuck. You in the vehicle relies on that entire software.
Hmm.
If you want, sometimes you will put an indicator to the left.
Uh-huh.
Indicator will turn on after around 10 seconds.
Hmm.
That's
So
the
the
time.
immediate response is not there.
Yeah,
Ah.
it somewhere lags behind.
Yeah, like it all again comes back to what we started discussing,
Yeah, the
like
digital
with the,
controls, yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah,
the mechanisms are decreasing. It's
Yeah.
all more about software now. Even cars, whether it be cars or scooters, everything is now software centric.
yeah. I
Mm.
want a simple mechanical car. That's
That's all we're asking.
yeah. So
Mm.
here we come to talk about like different fuels. How we have only talked about EVs,
Mm.
Hmm.
but there is Toyota which is aggressively pushing. Elon was completely pushing on battery as a technology,
Mm.
battery EVs or this motors, everything. This will go on, but how Toyota was keeping on its faith completely on hydrogen,
The
how
hydrogen.
hydrogen will give evolve, and how they were testing those hydrogen with the
Mhm.
engines. And any views on that? What do you think? Hydrogen will it be the future, or will EVs capture the market?
As of right now, I don't think we can like
Yeah,
be certain about that.
Yeah, that's sure.
but definitely I am rooting for hydrogen
Uh-huh.
in
Okay.
the long run because you know, a hydrogen fuel cell right now, even the technology, even if it's not so fully developed or polished,
Mm.
because it lacks very much in power.
Mm.
Like the current, I think Toyota Mirai,
Yeah.
it like as a car, it functions pretty good enough.
Mm.
Like it's enough for maybe a family to go from
Okay.
point A to point B,
Huh.
but it lacks so much on power and also the range. So the main challenge with the hydrogen fuel cells is that the the accommodation of the fuel
Oh
tank,
yeah, yeah. That's those cylinders. It feels like a CNG.
CNG, and for a sedan size car,
Uh-huh.
I think it would have nearly three cylinders, three huge hydrogen cylinders. So it takes up most of the space which could be used for other
Storage,
purposes,
yeah.
yeah, like storage, and even it compromises on comfort and quality.
Yeah, might be less leg room, right?
Leg
Like,
room,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
So I think that has to change,
yeah. Correct.
and
Yeah.
for that, I think new innovations and technologies
Yeah,
have to
it
emerge.
might take a few years.
Yeah, a
I
couple
mean,
of
like
years,
to reach.
maybe 10 years or so.
Yeah.
We could give that time,
Mm.
and by the time it reaches that, and it's not bad to take that
Mm.
time because even EVs, it just didn't evolve to this current generation just within a
Definitely.
short period of time. Like the initial EVs also had many drawbacks,
Mm.
like range was a very issue, like the range
Mm.
anxiety of people. Like I think back then cars would only give around 200,
Yeah. We had
200
that, I think
kilometers.
E2 or something from Mahindra.
Mahindra.
Yeah.
And it was a very bad thing. And also slow charging.
Uh-huh.
Hmm.
The charging network was not so, you know, developed and
Uh-huh.
fully grown as of right now.
Yeah, now there are many charging stations,
Stations,
right?
yeah. And it is actually possible to do a long trip.
Uh,
We can
Yeah.
plan accordingly.
Yeah. I can.
Like I think in your Ether also you can plan in your
Yeah, we
app.
can plan, but the
mm.
software and
That,
that's the
that's
dilemma.
something that companies have to work on.
Planning is something, but going is something else.
Yes, exactly. So even the EVs had a lot of issues
Yeah.
back then. But look at them, where are they now?
Yeah, that's
Like they
true.
are actually smoking off all the production IC cars.
Mm.
Yeah.
Like even the cost affordable
Mm.
EVs are beating supercars with
Mm.
IC engines.
Yeah.
So I think one day even eventually hydrogen will get there.
Mm.
So I'm rooting for it.
But I also think like we have this EVs which use lithium. Lithium is
Lithium.
somewhat a scarce resource,
Yes.
and this recycling it's not as efficient. You don't get that same lithium which is used, and you can't use it the same. So that until and unless that recyclability somehow improves, we can't keep using this
Lithium batteries.
yeah, lithium reserves, and somewhere it's bound to happen like this IC fossil fuels which we have. And if they find new technologies, it might be well and good. It might catch up with this hydrogen. Until and unless then, I think hydrogen is a future option
Yes.
because hydrogen is a naturally available
Yeah,
in
readily
yeah,
available.
it's readily available in the air, and we just have to convert it to that pure hydrogen
Pure.
form. Then we can use it easily. If you have that technology, then I think hydrogen is the killer.
Yes.
But until then, we have to exist with this EVs, battery electric vehicles, and if the technology improves, then I think we have hit the jackpot at both points.
But I think they have to work on the volume occupancy thing.
Yeah,
Like
so
the tanks must be smaller, the
I mean,
I think
density.
for the tanks to be smaller, the vehicle should consume less hydrogen, right? Only then,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
just
then
making the
also
tank
somehow
smaller.
if we can get some more compression, like how we have LPG cylinders,
yes,
it's liquefied. So if there is some technology somewhere it might evolve at some point, and if it evolves in that way, it'll be well and good to use. We'll have
Definitely,
that
that
much amount of space, but until then, we have to keep using what we have. So there, I think now, in terms of sustainability views, I think this battery electric vehicle is the way forward. But how forward, when forward, it's
how
still an
long?
ambiguity. And how long? Yeah, correct. That also is an ambiguity because it's completely evolving. You buy a battery vehicle today, tomorrow you will get a entirely new battery pack with advanced features. So what you will do with this battery pack you have currently? So
Yeah.
that's everything needs to be sorted out.
Yeah,
Until
mainly
then,
I
I think
think
with IC it should continue.
I
Yeah,
think all the companies today, like their major area of concern is sustainability.
yeah,
So all the companies, what they're trying to do is they are trying to maximize the amount of recycled materials that they use in their cars, like the technology or even whether it be an IC engine, like the emission rates. They're also trying to be more and more friendly to the environment and cause very little harm as possible.
yeah.
So I think what are your takes on the sustainability
No,
route
sustainability is
which is
actually
going
good,
on?
but it's an entirely different topic with it's a
Mm,
vast topic if you go that, but it's really good that the companies are following with this zero carbon emission.
mm,
So which means that in net, if you consume all their what they're doing, everything, if you take all the carbon emissions, it will be zero. They will emit zero emissions. It's really good for the environment. We can maybe not completely reverse what we have done, but we can somewhat a small bit we can reverse it. It's good, but how they do it or how they plan it, it's up to the countries. When
mm.
you look at the bigger picture, you have the countries, the country representatives, and everyone, industry representatives. Everything must come together and fall into the right place. Then only
Yes.
it will happen. That's it. Thank you,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.